Can you build muscle fast? The short answer is, if you do everything right, yes, you can build muscle fast. I started going to the gym at the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in just 2 short years, I was able to surpass almost everyone in the gym, including people who've been going to the gym for 5 or more years. I gained over 40 pounds of body weight. I built significant amounts of muscle and strength, and now I'm working on cutting that down to build that super aesthetic and toned physique that everyone desires. In this video, I'm going to cover the 4 fundamental things that you need to have in order to actually achieve muscle gains fast. If you can do all 4 of these things, if you can tick all 4 of these off, you're going to see gains extremely fast, just like I did. So number 1 is training. So a lot of this advice is common now, but let me just go over them really quickly. So for training, first, we need to be hitting each body part twice a week. It's been proven time and time again that if you want to build muscle mass, the gains are going to be so much more significant if you're stimulating each of your muscle groups twice a week. Now, with that being said, I would not recommend doing tons and tons of variations. I would recommend only 1 to 2 variations per muscle group. Just master those variations, keep it simple, and get strong in those specific lifts. And that way, that general strength and that general stimulus that you have will be far more valuable than being a little bit okay at a bunch of different lifts. Remember, you grow not based on the amount of weight that you can lift, but on how you can use that weight to work your muscles the most. I know there's always studies that are going to say, oh, as long as you train to failure, even if you do 3 reps or 6 reps, it's going to be good enough to stimulate growth. Listen, there's a study for everything. If you want to prove something exists, you can find a study for it. That doesn't mean that it's actually optimal. Anyone who's actually big, has built significant amounts of muscle mass, has an aesthetic physique, can tell you that training in higher rep ranges is always going to be superior. You want to have that sufficient time under tension. You also want to bring your muscle as close to that failure point as possible. And usually that's done best in the 10 to 12 rep range. The last point about training that I want to cover is that you need to be training close to failure. Without this one point, you can forget anything else in this video. You can forget anything else in the gym when it comes to lifting and actually building muscle mass. You need to train close to muscular failure if you want to see growth. Did you know that it's estimated that people stop as much as 10 reps before failure? That means if they did a set of 8 reps, they could have done 18 reps. Now, I don't know if I believe that study, but I can tell you from what I do see in the gym, no one is training as hard as me. No one is going anywhere near as hard as me, nowhere close to it. You can see it in their faces. You can see it, in their effort levels when they're lifting. They're just used to mediocrity. They're used to just showing up, clocking in like it's their 9-to-5 job. They're not used to pushing themselves to a really high extreme, pushing themselves to that extreme level of discomfort. You have to use that pain as a stimulus, an indicator to tell you that, you are doing something correct. It's not something bad. It's not something that you should try to avoid if you want to experience growth. The truth is, most people in the gym are not training anywhere near close to failure, and most people in the gym stay small. All right, building off of that last point of effort, we're going to talk about recovery. I know this is a very unpopular opinion, especially when I mention on Reddit, everyone's against it, but I still stand by it. I still firmly and truly do believe that recovery is absolutely essential. When I look at my friends who sometimes do train hard, but they still go to the gym 6 or even 7 days a week, I can see that, they would benefit a lot more if they just took a rest, allow their body to recover so that they can actually adequately experience the growth. They can, take a day off and just eat a lot of food and recover and replenish their body and recover the nutrients they need in order to actually experience a massive, significant amounts of growth. I truly believe when I got to as big as I did, if I didn't take rest days, there's no way I'm getting anywhere near as close to as big as I got. I cannot imagine it being possible. I remember feeling so sore on some days, and I was like, yeah, I just need to chill out and let my body recover. This is such an unpopular opinion. So many people are gonna say, oh, my best phases of the gym are when I went every single day or when I went 6 days a week. And you know what? I actually do believe them, but I believe it's because, they just aren't training as maximally as they can, as hard as they can. Think about it, there's no way they're training as hard as they can. If they trained absolutely as hard as they could, there's no way that you can do that day after day after day after day after day with no rest. At some point, of course, you're going to not be training as hard as you possibly can. Think about it. If you took 3 days off and then went back, you would train a lot harder because you'd be much more recovered. It's common sense. Everyone knows this. Sports team, you don't see NBA players train balls to the wall every single day, especially before a big game. They're not going to be training, one day before their big game, like, a full-on session. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense. It's common sense that you need rest and recovery to train. I believe, like I said, the two reasons why most people experience a lot of growth when they train every single day is, one, that's also the time when they happen to be the most disciplined and the most committed to the gym. So, maybe the other times when they were on their 4-day routine or their 3-day routine, they were actually like missing a lot of days in between as well. And number two, which is the big factor, is that they just weren't pushing themselves hard enough. So if you're not pushing yourself hard enough, of course, the routine where you go most often is going to win out, because the recovery isn't really warranted. I can go on for days about this. I know so many people reject this idea, but I really and truly believe that pretty much all of those Redditors are, small. They have insignificant gains. They don't look aesthetic. So I'm not saying it's impossible to make gains on 6 or 7 days a week, but let me just put it this way. For example, if you're having a plateau, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you can't break your bench press by 5 more pounds, or you feel like your body's not growing any bit more, trust me when I tell you, you'd benefit so much more by just dropping 1 day out of the week every week. For me, I went from 5-day PPL to a 4-day upper lower. For you, it might be going from 6 days to 5 days, or even just taking a week off. Trust me, you'll come back and you'll smash that plateau like it wasn't there. Next up is diet. So diet is one of the most overused excuses for people in gym as to why they weren't successful or why they can't grow. And the reason is very simple. Diet is the easiest thing to blame. It's much easier to say, oh, I just can't eat right, or I just can't find the right resources to eat enough food, or whatever else like that. It's much harder to say, I can't grow because, I'm not putting in the right amount of effort and I'm failing to show up consistently, which is the reason why most people fail. But of course, diet's the easiest thing to blame, so everyone blames their diet. When it comes to diet, the only way your diet's holding you back is if you literally cannot afford the fucking food to eat. If you can afford the food, then diet's not the valid excuse. Especially when it comes to bulking, all you really need is you need to be just making sure that you're having enough protein and that you're eating enough food. And it's not that complicated. Especially when you're a beginner and you're trying to just gain those first few significant pounds of muscle mass, of body weight in general, it's not that difficult. To anyone who thinks their diet is the issue as to why they're not seeing significant gains in the gym, you need to wake up and you need to realize that it's probably because you're actually not putting in the right amount of effort, or you're probably not being consistent. And speaking of consistency, the last thing that we need to talk about is consistency. So you need to stay consistent for quite a long time to actually see significant results. If you haven't been consistent for 3 months at least, you have no excuse. It's true with the gym, and it's true with a lot of other things in life as well. A lot of times we don't seem to really notice any significant gains, and then suddenly all at once we will see a massive improvement. So for example, for me, let's say I'm trying to get abs right now. I might drop 1% body fat, 1% body fat. It might not make that big of a difference, but it's a huge effort on my part. But then suddenly, after doing another 1%, at that last 1% that I need to actually see the 6-pack, then it's like, boom, I have a 6-pack. Now, every even 0.2% of body fat is making me look significantly better, right? So it's the same with the gym, and it's the same with your gains. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. For example, 1 week you might go lifting and it takes your joints a while to adjust. Then it's like another week you go and it's okay, now your ligaments are getting stronger. Then the next week you go and then it's like, okay, my nervous system is adjusting, adapting to the weight. Then the next week you go and then it's like, oh, okay, now my muscles are growing. So there's things that happen behind the scenes. There's things that happen that maybe aren't noticeable to you, but gains are always being made. So you need to realize that you have to be consistent in order to observe the gains in the long run. Going for 1 or 2 weeks and then saying that's not working, it's not sufficient. In the gym, you got to stay consistent for a long period of time. And this is a place where also a lot of people struggle. They cannot stay consistent. They cannot stick to a routine. It's too difficult. They can't hold themselves accountable. They can't stay disciplined. And they cannot delay gratification. If they don't see results right now, they end up just falling off. Anyways, guys, that's going to be the end of this video. Check out the link in the description for further guidance. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you're not already. I'll see you in the next one.